Hey everyone, it's Susan Pierce Thompson and welcome to the Wednesday vlog. I'm so excited to be here with you today, and I want to talk about something that came up for me just in the last week. I was invited to go to Hollywood and have dinner at Spago with Larry King and Wolfgang Puck and about 8 other people. And I said yes. And if you're sick of hearing about this already, I apologize. I posted it on Facebook. I uploaded the selfies and all that good stuff, and it was super sweet. I think one of the pictures I posted, I don't know if it was the one of me with Larry King or me with Wolfgang Puck, but there were like hundreds of comments, and some of the people said, "He's so lucky to meet you," which I thought was just the funniest, cutest thing to say. So if you were sending me that love, thank you so much. If you're tired of hearing this, I apologize. But anyway, it was a pretty big deal for me because I'm not like a celebrity hangout person. I'm like a mom in Rochester, New York with my 3 kids trying to run this business out of my basement here. So anyway, it was a big deal for me. I got invited by my friend John Assaraf, who's the founder and CEO of NeuroGym, which is a company that does brain retraining programs, very much in alignment with what we do here at Bright Line Eating. And I didn't even know that John Assaraf was like this big deal. I asked him, I was like, how did you get Larry King to come here and have dinner with us? And he's like, well, I was on the Larry King live show 8 times. And so I had his cell phone number, so I just called him and invited him. And I was like, oh, okay. So as I'm approaching this event, not only am I thinking, what am I going to wear? And I have to say, it was really nice to be in a right-sized body and to have a dress that I felt comfortable in. I felt really good for the evening, putting on my little black dress and going to this event. So that was nice. I tell you, 15 years ago, that would have been a nightmarish torture, thinking, how am I going to show up to this event in this body that I don't feel good about and don't feel comfortable in? But then, because I do Bright Line Eating, I had to think about the food. So I had no idea what we were going to be eating. I've only vaguely heard of Spago. It's this famous restaurant in Hollywood, and who knows what they serve there, right? So here's what you do when you're faced with a dining experience that leaves you baffled in terms of like, how do I stick to my bright lines at an event like this? You call ahead. So I call Spago. I just call them, and I just said, I'm going to go to this event on this night. And they said, how can we help? You know, here's the amazing thing about restaurants these days and caterers is everybody's on some kind of program. Everybody's got some kind of food sensitivity. Everybody's got some kind of thing that they're doing. So they're so in the business of accommodating you. So I just called and I said, hey, look, I'm going to be there at dinner on Thursday night, and I don't need any sugar and I don't need any flour. And they said, we got you covered. So I show up and the menus get passed out, and there's like 3 sections, and I don't recognize most of the food on there. So I'm asking the waiter, where's the produce, you know? And the second section was all pastas. And I said, I don't need any flour. And I said, could you just make me a plate of vegetables instead of that? And he said, sure. Awesome. And in the first one, I just ordered the most produce thing. I said, I don't need any sugar or flour. And in the last one, I ordered lamb. I don't usually eat meat, but I made an exception. I had lamb. It was so good. So the vegetables come. I didn't even recognize a lot of them. There was something frothing, literally bubbling and frothing on one side of the plate. And then there were all these, like, I think they were mushrooms, like little fans. And it was all so good. Wolfgang Puck, you have my undying admiration. I now know why you are so famous. Your food is amazing. So then the desserts came out. And there were maybe 5 different plates of desserts, and then they brought out like 3 of each of them, and they just put them everywhere on the table. There were like 8 of us sitting around this big round table, and they just covered the table in dessert. And here's the thing. Going into an event like this, my old foodie mind would think, if I don't give myself a free pass to eat whatever I want, I'll never forgive myself. I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I've got to just forget my bright lines and just eat whatever. And I'm so grateful I don't think about things like that anymore. So the desserts were passed out, and what I knew to be true is I've got to stick to my bright lines because I do bright line eating. I'm a bright line eater. I don't ever make an exception of my bright lines. I just stick to my bright lines. And so I pulled over the waiter and I was like, do you have any fresh fruit? I don't eat sugar. And he said, sure. So he came back with this beautiful tray of berries and little tiny slices of pear. And that's what I had. And what I noticed is that everybody else oohed and awed, and this is so good, and they took their bite and they traded plates around, and about 40% of the dessert items that were on the table got eaten, most of them in half amounts. And then everybody forgot about it and just kept talking. I finished my plate of fruit, plowed through it, and then I wasn't triggered and I wasn't obsessed and I wasn't left there thinking, can I have some more? Is anyone going to notice if I finish off this plate of dessert and that one? And then could I mean, for me, that would have been a nightmare. If I had been eating that sugar, I would have been left tortured for the hour that we all sat there and nobody else touched any of that food. I think one person reached out like 45 minutes later and tried another little bite of something because it was good. But for the rest of it, everybody just sat there and all that food was just there. And I would have wanted to finish every last thing that was on the table. I would have been so screwed if I'd been eating that sugar. It would have been the world's worst evening for me. And instead, I had the best time for some reason, and just thank you to the universe for my beautiful brain that is so healed and so retrained now. I didn't even notice that food. I mean, I noticed it obviously a little bit because I can recount it to you kind of what happened. It was kind of amusing to me that people just weren't eating that amazing dessert, but I was free. I was free and I was enjoying the company, and Larry King is hilarious. And John Assaraf asked him pointed question after brilliant leading thought so that he could just sit there and hold court and expound for us at 82 years old. He is sharp and he has met everybody and has witnessed history unfolding from a vantage point that few can rival. And I just got to sit there and enjoy it. And his jokes were hilarious. And if I'd been eating, I would have been miserable. And so this kind of reminds me of a coaching session I did today with the Bright Line Eating Boot Camp. One of the women, there were a couple hundred people on the call, and one of the women raised her hand and asked a question, and she said, look, I'm going on a 1-week all expenses paid vacation in Mexico, and it's like 3 weeks from now, and I'm already planning to just relax my bright lines and just not worry about it and resume after the fact. And she said, but obviously I'm thinking about it enough that I'm talking to you about it, so what do you think? And what I told her is, look, you can do that if you want to. That's a choice you can make. I'm not the Bright Line Eating police. If you want to do that, do it. But let me give you some thought, some food for thought, and some information as you make that choice. I said, here's a perspective. My guess is that you'll enjoy the vacation more if you're not eating. Because if you eat addictively, the anticipation is great, but the payoff is not so great. The payoff can be awful. Like me sitting there obsessing about all the dessert that I wanted to eat and that no one else was eating. That would have been awful for me. And I said, if you eat on this vacation, you're going to be thinking about, oh, is my stomach bloated in this bathing suit? And, oh, what am I going to eat tonight? Am I going to allow myself to eat this or that? Or am I going to eat less at breakfast because I know I'm going to pig out at lunch and dinner? And all of that craziness is going to come back into your head. So maybe you think that it'll be a great vacation if you're eating. I propose to you, and I invite you to consider that it will be an amazing vacation if you're not eating addictively. If you just stick to your bright lines and allow your food to be handled, and then you can really enjoy yourself. So I think sometimes people come into Bright Line Eating thinking, well, what do I do on my wedding day or my daughter's wedding day, or if I get invited to Spago to have dinner with Larry King and Wolfgang and John Assaraf? Like, who knows how it'll be, but maybe it'll be better with Bright Line Eating. And there's so much delicious food in the world to eat that doesn't have sugar and flour in it. I enjoyed my food that night. It was breathtaking and completely within the bright lines. So before you go worrying about the vacation or the special occasion that's in your future, just know that people have walked this path before you and survived and have lived to tell the tale, and that there is a way to get through any occasion without eating sugar and flour and not even regretting it. So that's the vlog for the week. And if you have a topic you would like me to address on the weekly vlog, go ahead and send it in. I'm at susan@brightlineeating.com. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and scroll down and give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, some kind of reaction. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And have a great week. I'll see you next week.